In my last video, I said I found myself less and less drawn to what I would describe as traditional landscape photography. And in the one before that, I probably should have tried to do an early morning, but I'm just not kind of feeling the love for early morning photography at the moment. So guess what I'm doing today? Behind me is the Lago Rosa. I hope you'll enjoy the video. If you do, and you're new here, don't forget to hit subscribe before you go. When it comes to photography, I tend to go with my instincts and my feelings about what kind of photography to do. I find I get the best results that way. And it's true that recently I haven't felt like, getting up early in the morning and, going out in the dark and waiting for the right light. But when the mood did take me this week, I decided to come out to the Pink Lake, or the Lago Rosa in Torrevieja. It's only really pink in the summer, and we're now well into September. I think it's about the 10th today. So I'm hoping it's still pink. It looks like it at the moment, but obviously it's quite difficult to see in the dark. I have set up for a shot, and what I'm using is some of the salt incrustations, because this is a salt lake, in the foreground. Then there's some poles that go across the scene, and in the background there's the lights across in the town. And there's not a lot happening in the sky, to be honest. It's pretty much completely clear blue sky. Well, it will be blue when the sun comes up, but at the moment it's dark because it's still about 40 minutes until sunrise. So I'm going to run two exposures. One's going to be 2 minutes and one's going to be 4 minutes. 2 minutes for the background because of all the lights, and then 4 minutes for the foreground because I am very close to that salt incrustation and I want to make sure that I get that in focus, so I'm going to have to focus stack. So I'm going to use a torch on the foreground to be able to get it to focus. Not entirely convinced that one worked, if I'm honest. The salt incrustation, which is actually salt on the rocks, just look like rocks and not particularly pleasing. So I've come around to the side here where there's some better angles on some of the wooden posts, but as soon as I got round here, we got mozzies. So got my mozzie spray out. I'm gonna have a quick squirt, try and avoid getting too bitten. Right, hopefully that will keep them off of me for a bit. Let's see what we can do with these posts. So what I really want to do, I'm going to shoot vertically. The foremost post is a lot taller than all the rest, and it breaks the horizon or the shoreline on the other side. Nothing much I can do about that except exclude it, which I'm not sure that is going to be overly practical. Also, the posts aren't exactly evenly spaced out. The one at the end is kind of in a little bit compared to the others, so I'm not careful, those two end posts are overlapping, which I don't want. I think I am going to try and avoid that first post. And then there are a couple of other posts off to one side, which, if I'm honest, I'd rather not have in there, but I don't think there's a composition I can get that will avoid them. Well, that one might work. 20-second exposure. It's going to be quite minimalist, I think, this one. I am trying another quite minimalist scene here, but it was just like a wide angle shot looking out across the lake with the poles running across, but I don't think it's working. I think to try and do anything today, I think what I need to do is break out the longer lens and see if I can maybe focus a bit more on details. We've got that sort of greeny blue tinge in the sky over there now. Okay, 55 to 200 on, probably about 60 mil, I'm guessing, something like that. Concentrating on just 3 posts. So the posts are sticking out of the water. It's very flat and tranquil underneath. There's some textures in the post, there's some coloured bands. And then in the background, we've got quite a hazy, far shoreline. So it's pretty minimalist. I'm trying to space the poles out so that they look like they're at the same distance. I'm just doing that by moving slightly to the side. I think that might be. So just down to now to a 4-second exposure. About 15 minutes before sunrise. It's quite minimalist. Still wish I could get the spacing a little tiny bit better. So I'm going to try and move into one side a little bit further. See if that helps. So the challenge that I've got, if I move to get the spacing better, I get the poles going more across the scene. Whereas if I go over that way, the spacing doesn't look quite as good, but the poles are kind of going a little bit more away from me. I think I'll take them both and see which works the best. Okay, there's a little bit of a glow just starting over that way, but there's nothing to shoot that way. It's just houses and sort of like scrubland. Having tried the telephoto lens, I've now decided to try going completely the opposite extreme and shoot with the fisheye. We've got this kind of sort of snaky shaped piece of land sticking out here, which is exaggerated by the extreme wide angle. And then a row of posts that go across. I'm putting the horizon right the way across the middle of the scene, which will avoid the obvious fisheye effects. That means, of course, that I've got 50% below the horizon and 50% above, which isn't going to look right, but this will be cropped 16 by 9, maybe even 2 to 1 to take out a chunk of the sky. I've got no idea if this is going to be any good or not, but it's always worth a try. Unfortunately, the actual foreground isn't that appealing. It's not particularly pretty. Okay, there's quite a nice pinkish tone on the lake out there. There's some posts in the background and there's a rock which has got some salt kind of around it in the foreground. Now, the quandary I've got is the height of those posts. If I go low down, those posts are up, completely breaking the horizon, but we do get the best angle on the rock in the foreground. If I go a bit higher, I can get the posts below the horizon, but then that gives me a much longer gap between the rock and the posts in the background, and I'm not sure what's the best option. Sun's coming up over there now. That's the only place where there's a bit of cloud. Everywhere else is blue sky. Starting to get a bit of light coming through now the sun's come up. There is a minimalist kind of shot here where there's a post and its reflections, and right at the base of the post there's a big chunk of salt. I mean, it might be a rock covered in salt, I don't know. But I'm thinking, you know, telephoto, isolating that against the background might work. Kind of half tempted to pop on an ND filter to get a long exposure and smooth it out, but I think I'm going to try it first with without, because it may well be that the texture in the water adds something to it. I kind of want the post just off centre, and then I'll pop on a 10 stop and do a long exposure on it just to see if it looks any better with that. Actually, do you know what? I'm not going to put a 10 stop, I'm going to put a 6 stop on. And a 3 stop. And that'll let me get a 30-second exposure. I'm doing a shot across here. There's I've got one of the posts sitting in the lower right hand third with its reflections. It's got some textures and colours and that on it, and then over in the background there's the shoreline, and then beyond that in the distance there's the shape of a mountain, and we're getting a little bit of reflections in the background as well. So we'll give it a go. I'm actually going to focus stack this because it doesn't look like I'm getting the background and the post sharp in one shot. Maybe not an obvious shot, but there's a row of pylons in the distance, and just before that on the shoreline there's a tree. And what I'm doing is I'm shooting with one of the wooden posts kind of in the foreground with the reflection, and then we've got the shoreline in the background which has got reflections both of the shoreline, the tree and the pylons, and then out in the background there's the town, or some buildings anyway, and mountains. So like I say, not an obvious shot perhaps, but hopefully it will work okay. reasonably nice kind of reflection scene looking this way. I mean, there's lots of buildings in there. There's houses, villas, whatever they are. But there's also some sort of plant life, and there's just a little bit of cloud sitting in the sky, and the whole lot's reflecting, I don't know, probably about 75, 80 mil. And we'll have some posts in the scene as well. So they actually do salt extraction here, and over that way is the bulk of the salt works. There's some machinery, there's a big sort of mountain of salt. And I think I might do a shot looking across here. There's a big machine, quite dark, which has got like a V shape, and that's reflecting, creating an X shape. So I'm going to put that in the background on the right hand side with kind of like the salt cliff coming off the side of it, and then one of the posts in the foreground. Vertical shot again, and quite possibly focus stacked again. Well, that sun's getting pretty bright now, and I think it's probably time for me to head for home and get some breakfast. I fancied doing it today, and I have. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching, and until next week, whatever that is, bye.